And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, with yet another commission, with today's being a special occasion because it's not just a commission, but a remastered version of an old video I did a long time ago titled What If Naruto Ate the Kage no Mi? Which, in case you haven't seen that video, it's pretty much just Naruto with the Shadow Devil Fruit from One Piece, which was a really cool video idea, and I recommend you watch it if you go on to enjoy this one. But before you do, quick disclaimer, it's not going to be as much like this one as you would expect, because obviously with this being remastered and being a lot of years in the future, a lot of things are going to be changing. That said, if you want to commission your own video for yourselves, then check out the community tab. But with no further ado, let's begin.
Hey Ross, sauce it up.
So in this timeline of events, I was thinking that to make things a bit interesting, I could probably go with a world where Naruto is actually going to be part of the Nara family, seeing as for this video, I'm going to be making the power a bit more akin to that of a Kekkei Genkai, with a little bit of Gecko Moria elements sprinkled into it from One Piece. So for those of you that are like, that's not how Gecko Moria's powers work, shut up. I'm making my own. Anyways, that said, in this timeline, like I said, Minato's going to be a Nara, so Naruto's going to be a Nara as well, meaning that by the time that Naruto's growing up in the village and he's living on his own, Naruto would eventually turn about, 5-6 years old, and this would be around the time in the story where Naruto would go on to meet Shikamaru, which would be one of those events in Naruto's childhood that just changes his life forever, because I think this is around the time period where he's in the academy, and this means that Naruto kind of just sitting in the back of the class, trying to stand out, like get noticed by being funnier every now and then, he would garner the attention of Shikamaru, leading to the two of them becoming acquaintances, not quite friends, but they know of each other, with Naruto displaying these interesting capabilities inside of the classroom, with Shikamaru taking note, asking Naruto if his abilities are somehow related to the Nara's clan techniques, that there's no way Naruto should know any of this, right? But Naruto would simply turn to Shikamaru saying that he doesn't know what he's talking about. And it's at this point that we would kind of have like a little bit of like a jump skip to a different moment in time entirely, where Naruto would be, or no, sorry, not Naruto, but Shikamaru would be inside of his family home, looking to his father before asking, "Hey dad, can I ask you something?" Shikamaru's father would say, "What is it, Shikamaru?" As Shikamaru just kind of looks at him and he's like, "Why is it that people don't like Naruto? Why do they treat him so differently?" He would look at his son saying, "Well, son, how other people treat him doesn't really matter to..." Sorry, I'm going to stop. Okay. He pretty much just goes on to tell him that the way that other people treat him doesn't matter. He pretty much just asks him, "What's your opinion on Naruto?" And Shikamaru was like, "Well, I mean, I don't really dislike him, but I also don't really like him, I guess." And his dad would look at him and say, "All right, good, then keep that opinion. And whatever anybody else says doesn't matter. But to answer your question, Shikamaru, the people fear what they don't understand. And Naruto, well, let's just say he's a bit of an enigma." After this, Shikamaru would say, "I'd say he's able to use shadow techniques without having even learned them from the Nara clan." And Shikamaru's dad hearing this would be like, "Wait, are you serious?" To which Shikamaru would nod, and his father would start doing the cliche like goatee pull as he's like trying to think about things. While doing this, he would then remember that it was true that Minato was part Nara from someplace, he guesses, as he then looks to the direction of like his son and tells him to bring that boy over tomorrow if he doesn't mind. Shikamaru's like, I don't see why, but sure, I guess I'll tell him to come over. So the next day at school, while Naruto's, kind of in the back of the class, like he's like giving up hope. He's like, well, clearly being the class clown just gets people to look at me like an idiot, and it's not helping. So he kind of just sits down. He's having a quiet day. And at the end of everything, Shikamaru finally walks up to him and goes, "Hey, Naruto, you want to come over to my house for dinner? Maybe we're having pork." And Naruto looks at him. He's like, "Are you serious?" And Shikamaru's like, "Yeah, you're welcome to come by, Naruto." So Naruto, looking to Shikamaru, is just like, "Yeah, thanks. do we just go now or? And the two boys would be seen just going home, with Shikamaru asking Naruto questions that he's always wondered, being like, hey Naruto, how do you feel about the villagers always staring at you weird? Naruto kind of looks down before saying, it's not a big deal, you know? I gotten used to it, believe it. As Shikamaru just looks at him and he's like, yeah, I guess so. As they make their way home, and once there, this is when his father would start to feed Naruto, have a couple of conversations with him, and then eventually ask Naruto to show him that ability of his that Naruto can quote unquote use. With Naruto being like, oh, you mean the shadows, of course. He'd go on to use like a strange ability that's kind of similar to how the Nara works, as Naruto would grab onto, like with his physical hand, would go to grab at Shikamaru's father's shadow, and his dad would literally feel the pain from that. He's like, what? With Naruto letting it go and saying, yeah, it's kind of cool. I can cause people pain by latching onto their shadows somehow. With Shikamaru's dad being stunned and looking to Naruto getting to eye level with him and asking, who taught you these techniques, Naruto? To which Naruto looking back at him would simply say nobody. He's been able to do stuff like this since he can remember. He's been called a bit of a weirdo for that, and maybe that's why people call him a demon. But the dad simply just stares at Naruto and is like, he must possess a Kekkei Genkai, and it's shadow related. That means that the Nara clan is probably the best clan to teach him how to hone these techniques. We can't allow such a splendid ability to go to waste. I'm gonna have a meeting with the Hokage later on, Shikamaru. Why don't you keep our guest here, Naruto, entertained? And so, with that being the case, Naruto would kind of just stay there hanging out with Shikamaru, with the two of them playing shogi, and Naruto saying that his dad's pretty freaking cool. Shikamaru would say, yeah, the old man, you know, he's kind of cool sometimes. As we would then jump cut to Hiruzen and Shikamaru's dad, just kind of talking about how things are, with him explaining to Hiruzen that Naruto seems to possess the ability to have an innate Shadow Kekkei Genkai, with abilities similar to the Nara clan's secret technique. And with Hiruzen hearing this, he would look shocked, saying, how? With him saying that he doesn't know, but the fact that he possesses this is already big enough. If we can somehow train Naruto to use this technique, there's no telling how powerful he could become. With an ability like the Nara's mixed in with his own, he could become a true monster someday. And Hiruzen hearing this would tell him that he will leave him in charge of his training, telling him that if he needs Naruto to move in or simply spend a lot of time over there, he has his blessing. And Shikamaru's dad kind of just looks like down at the ground, or not down at the ground, but he looks out the window to see the Hokage monument of Minato, and seeing that, he thinks to himself that he'll take the boy in and he'll train him himself. As we would then jump cut to the time where Naruto's finally graduating from the academy, with years having passed, with Naruto definitely having Shikamaru and his dad's attitude rubbing off on him, but to the extreme. The first couple of years would be spent with Naruto honing his shadow affinity and learning Nara techniques, and even beyond that, creating his own. Naruto would discover that he has so many crazy abilities when it comes to his shadow control, and Naruto would find one that's even more deadly than any others. When one day, as Naruto would be training and sparring with a random ninja from the Nara clan that Shikamaru's dad had specially requested for this, Naruto would innately pull out the man's shadow without realizing it, dragging the whole thing out, as the man instantly, being in the sunlight, would burn to ash, with Shikamaru's father watching this whole entire process and Naruto being stunned. Did I do that? Naruto would say, as Shikamaru's dad would literally rush at Naruto, covering his eyes, telling him not to even look. As we would see Naruto sitting there, standing there, just kind of looking traumatized, with Shikamaru's dad telling him that it wasn't his fault, that he simply used an ability he didn't understand, and it was reckless, but wasn't intentional. He would tell Naruto that he'll take the blame for that death, but Naruto would look at him, telling him that no, he will. He's already the demon of the clan of the village anyways. The father would simply look at Naruto as he nods and tells him that he'll make sure to keep this under wraps. And from that day on, things kind of changed for Naruto. He stopped working as hard, and he started kind of gaining this little bit of a lazy attitude. He got that because he wants to not necessarily use his powers, because a little part of him is scared. Though after all these years of doing that, he kind of would have bottled that emotion in the deepest, darkest part of his soul, with him refusing to accept that he's scared of the power. He simply has lied himself, telling himself that the real reason he doesn't use his powers is because he's just so strong that even if he did move a muscle, it'd all be too easy. And so, with this jump skipping to Naruto on the day of the graduation, we would kind of just jump cut to seeing Naruto ripping Iruka's shadow out of his body, as Iruka would feel a fuzzy sensation go over him, with Naruto simply telling Iruka that unless he passes him, he'll never get this shadow ever again, and he's gonna have to avoid sunlight for the rest of his life. And with Iruka knowing that Naruto possesses wacky Kekkei Genkai abilities, he would not be willing to take that chance. So just simply staring at him, he'd say, "Fine, Naruto, just give me my shadow back and I'll graduate you. At least I can get rid of you. You've never done anything in class anyways." So Naruto would walk off, graduating from the academy almost as though nothing had ever happened, with Shikamaru asking him why he had stayed after class. Naruto would say that he had to take care of something, with Shikamaru saying that that's strange. He never does anything. Naruto would look at him and say, "In your words, I guess everything's just a drag." Naruto would stare at Shikamaru as he would go on to ask him if he wants to go home and drink some sodas and play shogi or something. And Shikamaru would say that he would, but he promised Choji he'd go up for some BBQ. So Naruto, hearing that, would simply nod, telling Shikamaru to have fun, as Naruto would make his way home, and the very next day, Naruto would make his way into the classroom where he would be placed onto Team 7. As the very next day, Naruto would go on to partake in the bell test, where we would watch Naruto snag the bells easily, with the day all starting with Naruto being underneath a tree, the only tree in the area, just kind of sitting there with his eyes closed inside of his very own mindscape. And as we zoom in, we can see that Naruto is dreaming of strange events. He's in the perspective of a tall, white-skinned, slender but fat at the same time man, who's holding this strange iron club, staring down at a gigantic dragon. That would be the last thing he sees before suddenly he would hear somebody calling him, which would be his sensei, Kakashi, tapping Naruto on the shoulder, telling him that they're about to begin with a smile on his face. Naruto, hearing this, would simply nod, standing up as he would start doing some light stretches, like just kind of like yawning stretches is kind of what I mean, in case you're wondering. And as this would happen, Kakashi would start explaining all the bells as he would count down. 3, 2, 1. Suddenly, we would see Naruto weaving loads and loads of hand signs, as Naruto from his mouth would go and then shoot something up into the air. It's kind of like smoke, fog. It's a jutsu that would have been taught to him by Shikamaru's father. The entire area, or not like the whole thing, but just like that little section where Naruto and Kakashi were standing, would be covered by this cloud that wouldn't allow sunlight to enter the area. And it's not something that's like it lasts there forever, it dissipates after a few seconds. So Naruto has to act quickly, and luckily for Naruto, he definitely does. Naruto would have his shadow from the ground start to elongate towards Kakashi, with Kakashi thinking to himself that Naruto is smart, but not smart enough. He knew about his shadow capabilities. However, that was just a diversion, because looping around would come forth a small little bat made out of a shadow, which would glide through the ground, entering Kakashi Sensei's own shadow, with Naruto walking closer, with the bat essentially not allowing Kakashi Sensei to move. It's not as effective as the normal shadow paralysis technique, but it works just long enough for Naruto to manipulate his very own shadow and cause it to grab the shadow of the bells, which then in turn rips the shadow, not the shadows, but the bells from Kakashi's waist, and Naruto, now having them within his hands, would proceed to say, "There, I win," as he would just sit back down and say that the rest of them can have their own go, tossing them back at Kakashi, with Sasuke being stunned, being like, "What? When did he?" And Kakashi would be shocked as well, just thinking, how could he have? But suddenly it all clicked. He saw an object moving so rapidly from the left side of his eye, but he had just assumed it was like a mouse or a bug or something, not a freaking shadow. And so with Kakashi sitting there, he would simply just think to himself that Naruto is a talent among talents. As we would then go on to the rest of the team trying to get the bells, with them both ultimately failing and Naruto being the only one not tied to the stump. By the end of everything, Kakashi would then look towards the direction of Naruto, telling him that he and the rest of the team failed. Naruto hearing this would look at him going, "Huh? What do you mean I failed? I got the bells from you, you dope! You can't fail me, but thing 1 and thing 2 over there, go ahead and send them back to the academy. They didn't so much as get close to getting the bells." To which Kakashi would look at him, telling him that while he is talented, he's not very bright. He goes on to explain to Naruto that the purpose of this test was teamwork. And even if Naruto was capable of completing the mission, those who would abandon their teammates for the sake of the mission are worse than scum. As Naruto just looks at Kakashi and goes, "Baloney! I call baloney! Nothing matters above completing the mission. And you mean to make me believe that I should care even in the slightest for these 2 setbacks?" Naruto in this moment would simply tell Kakashi that if he won't pass him, someone else will. Naruto suddenly would disappear from sight, body flickering out of there, and we would then see him appearing once more inside of Hiruzen's office, where Naruto, walking into his office while he was actually talking to Danzo, would step forth telling Hiruzen that his sensei Kakashi is out of his freaking mind. He just failed them in the bell test, even though he had managed to snag both bells from him, mind you, in 20 seconds. Hiruzen, hearing this, would simply look down, hit his pipe, and tell Naruto that the point of the mission is teamwork. As Naruto would tell him that he doesn't care for teamwork. He's a one-man army, and he can do things all by himself. He doesn't need a team, believe it. Naruto, after saying that, would kind of cringe a little, knowing that just slipped out. That's something he hasn't said in years. And so, then staring towards the man Danzo, who was also in the office, giving him a dirty look for, kind of bad-mouthing to Hiruzen, would say, "You better stop staring at me, funny dude, unless you want the sun to become your worst nightmare." After these words leave his mouth, Danzo would raise his hand to hit Naruto, but Hiruzen would give him a stare of "you better not." As this is when we would see Naruto staring back at Hiruzen and telling him that if they don't want to embrace his talents in the village, it's fine. There's many other villages that can embrace his skills. With that being said, Danzo would let out a "why you little," as Hiruzen would lift his hand saying, "Stop, Danzo," going on to explain to him that Naruto's behavior is his fault, and it's for the Hokage to deal with and reprimand as he sees fit. He would then stare at Naruto, telling him that he's right, that Naruto is too big of a talent to just pass just because he didn't complete it with teamwork. He would tell Naruto that he'll make sure that he passes and that Kakashi Sensei is on board with this. Naruto, hearing this, would simply calm down almost immediately before exiting the room, saying, "Well, thanks then, I guess," as he leaves. And this is when Danzo would stare at Hiruzen angry, saying, "How could you let that brat speak to you that way, Lord Third?" As we would then see Hiruzen saying that if that brat was acting like that, it's because of his fault, that he should have done a better job raising him. But unfortunately for himself, he was too busy with paperwork and trying to enjoy his little free time that he had to pay attention to Naruto the way that he should have. He would go on to look out, as he would simply think to himself that he just hopes it's not too late, and that Naruto is more than just an asset to the village, but the heir of the Minato Namikaze estate. As it's at this point that we would zoom out of that area and we would jump cut to 2 weeks worth of the D rank missions that the team would usually do, with Naruto not even so much as lifting a finger. And as the team would be finishing their last mission before they finally get the Tazunu Bridge Builder one, Kakashi would stop Naruto, telling him that he would like to talk to him a bit. And so we would see Naruto kind of just sigh before going over to him and asking him what's up. He would then signal to Sasuke and Sakura to leave, and as the two of them would do so, he would look at Naruto, asking him why exactly he doesn't participate in these missions. He tells him that thanks to that, he's not even going to get a cut of these missions, and that should be fair. Naruto, hearing that, says that it's whatever, so long as he's getting the credits that he needs to get past these garbage missions, he'll be fine. And with Kakashi looking at him with a raised eyebrow, he would say, "So why?" As Naruto would look at him and tell him, "If you really want to know, it's this simple. Why should I do something that other people can do? There's no real need for me to get involved, right? Are they in a life or death situation? Am I? What's the reason for me having to even lift my little finger to do anything?" And Kakashi, hearing this, would say, "So you mean to tell me that you'll do something if you have to?" And Naruto would simply look at him and say, "Of course I will, but nobody's gonna make me have to. They're all weak." As he would kind of walk off before stopping and telling Kakashi that if he wanted to, he could kill anyone, including him. As Kakashi would look down at the ground and see a shadow pair of scissors alongside his very own shadow, like with this weird shadowy creature threatening to cut it. It would be Naruto with this creepy looking smile. And Kakashi, seeing that, would then look towards Naruto not with fear but with concern. He would wonder how far Naruto can get with this line of thinking in the shinobi world, and if he's going to have to lose a lot of people before he can finally realize the error of his mistake. He would see a little bit of him in Naruto, but ultimately he decides that Naruto is going to have to overcome those hurdles on his own. And so Kakashi would simply say, "You'll have to show me someday, Naruto." As time would pass and we would eventually find ourselves with the team having been given the Tazuna Bridge Builder mission, with them all on their way towards the land of the waves. On their way there, Naruto just walking on by, feeling the shadows, the presence. Naruto kind of has a really cool way of understanding or feeling out his surroundings, in the sense that shadows around him just kind of alert to him that they're there. Just imagine that you're in a dark room. This is the best way I could put it. You're in a dark room, right? And there's little lights that are all around you, kind of like embering, kind of like fireflies, I guess you could say. If I had a just imagine there's little flashes of lights in little specific spots, which all mark shadows. So that lets Naruto know if people are nearby or if they're not. And judging by the shape of the shadows and the size, Naruto can determine whether it's a person or an animal. And so, doing this, Naruto, feeling the Demon Brothers' presence, would simply watch on to see how Kakashi would handle this, going on to watch Kakashi seemingly get cut in half, all the while Naruto would simply sigh, as two small shadows emanating from underneath, where the trees are covering little shadowy areas, would latch onto both Demon Brothers, with Naruto looking at them and telling them that it's his lucky day. He's been looking for two semi-strong shadows, as Naruto would clip the both of them, as both brothers would feel fuzzy about to fall to the ground, until they would kind of stand up and say, "Why you? What did you do to us?" And now normally Gecko Moria's ability makes it so that people go completely unconscious when their shadows are being ripped out, but we're going to be eliminating that little thing from the powers of Naruto, just due to the fact that I think that's a bit too OP. I mean, granted, I'm already making him OP, but that's just, I don't know, I feel like that's a little lame if they just fall into unconsciousness. So Naruto in this moment would simply smirk as both brothers lunged towards him directly into the sunlight, and poof, they both straight up disappear from existence, almost as if they were Dracula or something. Naruto after this would simply just kick his foot up, kicking up some dust before saying, "You can come out now, Kakashi." And Kakashi would come out, with him pretty much telling Naruto that that was certainly something. And Naruto would look at him, going on to tell him that those two were so weak, he can barely count their shadows as something of note, before walking off, and Sasuke and Sakura would be stunned, with Sasuke kind of gritting his teeth, wondering why it was that Naruto was born with such a crazy ability like this, and he couldn't be. He doesn't need that power, but he does, to avenge his clan and kill his older brother, that damn bastard. But regardless, soaking in these thoughts isn't going to help Sasuke. So as they continue on forth with the mission, eventually they make it towards a area where they're about to board onto a boat, when suddenly a very thick mist would envelop them. And once there, Naruto would realize that this is definitely going to be having a little bit of an impact on his ability, because with this thick mist being around in the land of the waves, this means that the sunlight, similar to how Thriller Bark worked, if you've seen One Piece, but pretty much the sunlight can't really get to the people fully, meaning that it's not gonna just destroy people instantly, which is going to be a pretty interesting ability to take note of. But anyways, this would be when as they're walking by, Naruto could sense a shadow moving towards them with high speed. As Naruto, seeing this, would then proceed to watch on as a blade would come flying towards his direction at a speed that shocked Naruto. He barely managed to react to it, with him being angered at the fact that he had to even use any semblance of his abilities to dodge that. And so, staring at the perp, Naruto would use his shadow paralysis jutsu to stun Zabuza, who would be completely stunned, not expecting someone to possess this ability. And as Naruto would be about to steal his shadow, looking down at the ground and telling him that he's dead, this is when suddenly Haku, knowing that Zabuza was in major trouble, would throw Ice Senbon to the direction of Naruto, which Naruto would block with Shadow Bats. 3 would pop up, all the while Haku would stare on in confusion, and Zabuza would be mimicking the body movements of Naruto, examining the Ice Senbon and saying, "Interesting," before he would crush it in his hand and stare towards the direction of Haku, with him saying, "I didn't know anyone else was around." And as this would be happening, Haku would close the gap immediately. Seeing Naruto as an immediate threat to Zabuza, he would get so close and instantly slam his hand to the ground, muttering the words, "Demonic Mirror Jutsu," as suddenly tons of mirrors would appear, forcing Naruto to let go of Zabuza and stare at his new opponent that's now in front of him. Naruto would go on to tell Haku that this ability is pretty interesting, telling him that he's gonna have a blast using him as a little puppet for fun. And Haku, hearing that, would simply ignore him as he begins to jump from mirror to mirror at maximum speed, throwing Senbon as fast as possible, with Naruto using his shadows to create a thin barrier that doesn't allow the Senbon to penetrate through. This would work wonders for Naruto, as he would be plotting something in his mind, all the while pretending that the Senbon were getting to him. It's at this point that Naruto would show a little bit of a creepy smile, as we would see Naruto's shadow form latch onto Haku's shadow the second that he leaped from the next mirror, but leaving Naruto to only need a couple more Senbon to finish the job. And so, Naruto latching onto the shadow would impede Haku from moving at all, as these shadow scissors would appear and cut Haku's shadow clean out of his body. This would cause Haku to feel fuzzy, as his movements would slur for a couple of seconds, and this would give Naruto the perfect opportunity to kill him instantly, with one of his shadow bats appearing behind Haku and blowing itself up. This attack would destroy Haku's back, having him land on the ground as his body would start to slowly lose consciousness, and he would find that he was starting to see a strange light. It's at this point that Naruto would smile above Haku, now seeing that his body had completely died, all the while Kakashi at this point would have been facing off against Zabuza this entire time. This is when Naruto, now sure of Haku's death, would return his shadow towards him, as he would order Haku to attack Zabuza, which would happen instantly. Haku lunging towards the direction of Zabuza, now no longer restricted by the pain of the explosion, would slash Zabuza in the back, with his Ice Senbon. With Zabuza being completely caught off guard that the dead Haku was now moving, and not only moving but fighting, and against him. Him landing this attack on Zabuza would stun him, as he would fall to his knees going, "Haku, how could you?" Seeing his eyes and seeing that there was no life in them anymore, as it would lift both hands up with Senbon in tow, about to slash Zabuza's head clean off his body, with his shadow being ripped off simultaneously, when suddenly Haku would stop just short, with one singular tear pouring down one side of his eye, as Haku would stab into his own body, not hurting Zabuza again, which would lead Naruto to watch on in anger, as he would say, "How dare you resist my abilities? This is impossible," Naruto would say. However, as he would fail him, Naruto would retract Haku's shadow, not wanting it to act more defiant, as Naruto would watch on as Kakashi would tell him that he'll do it. And as Zabuza would be sitting there without a shadow, feeling fuzzy, already having been stabbed in the back, plus the pain of his chakra being fatigued, and the damage that Kakashi had already landed, this was just a GG for Kakashi. He would stare Zabuza in the eyes as Zabuza would tell him that he and that brat, they were special. When suddenly, with The sound of 1,000 birds could be heard, with Kakashi plunging his Chidori deep into the man's body. After this would happen, Naruto would have two brand new shadows, both more powerful than the last. And as the two shadows would return to him, they would enter his own shadow, which would cause it to grow even larger than it was before, with Naruto feeling strength like never before coursing through his veins. These shadows granted him incredible strength boosts. Them combined gave him speed and strength that he thought was unimaginable. But after dwelling in this power and closing his eyes and breathing in, Naruto would calm himself, understanding that this is now his base state. Naruto would spend the next couple of days getting used to it, all the while Team 7, or the rest of them, would be forced with the more menial labor of actually helping the bridge builder complete the bridge, and also small little training exercises which the rest of the team would do. All the while Naruto would simply spend most of his time kind of lazing around, enjoying the scenery, and kind of just acclimating his body to the new powers by doing a little bit of training that he never allowed anybody to see, with the only person wise of the fact that Naruto was doing that being Kakashi, because, well, he's no idiot. And so, with that being the case, the team would finish the mission after Gato would arrive, and he would be dispatched of pretty easily, with the team all being at 100% health, since they wouldn't have had to fight against Haku and Zabuza in this timeline. So with that said, as the team would make their way home, Sakura, feeling a bit of the awkwardness and the silence in the air, would turn to Naruto going, "Hey Naruto, can I ask you a question? Why does your shadow always look so much different to ours?" As Naruto would look to her saying that it's his Kekkei Genkai, with her asking, how does he have something like that? Saying that aren't Kekkei Genkai specifically related to clans? With Naruto sighing and saying that yeah, she kind of is onto something. He would say that he's part of the Nara clan somehow, explaining that he's not exactly too sure if it's because of his mom or dad or some distant relative that he doesn't even know existed, but regardless of how, that's what he and many others have started to speculate, saying that he's honestly not too sure where it came from, but his best bet is the Nara clan's strange ability to manipulate shadows. To which, after responding this, Naruto would think that she should be satisfied and he can just go back to closing his eyes and walking at the faint little feeling of shadows that he can feel nearby. However, Sakura would speak once again, with Naruto just kind of scowling as he would just hear her ramble on and on until she finally would get the hint. Eventually, the team would arrive back into the village, and once there, they would report to Hiruzen what had taken place over the course of the mission. Alright, Futures Other here, and I just gotta let you guys know really quickly, I completely forgot where I left off on the last part, so we're kind of just gonna pick the story back up after the team had just finished the Land of the Waves mission, after they would debrief Hiruzen, which obviously would happen, and then we're gonna pick everything off with them all kind of having like a little bit of a meeting, more of like a summon, I guess you could say, with everybody there, and Naruto being one of the last members to get there, when suddenly Kakashi appearing out of nowhere would say, "Sorry, I'm late," to which Sasuke would say, "Don't worry, you're not the only one." And Kakashi would lower his eyebrows, staring at Naruto, with him letting out a little bit of a chuckle. Anyways though, after this would take place, this is when Kakashi would go on to tell them about the Chunin exams, and with the team finding out about these things to come, they would all be pretty excited for that, with Naruto thinking that that's going to be awesome considering he had just heard Shikamaru talking about that, since, you know, normally he would have thought it was a bit of a drag, but if Shikamaru's gonna be there, count him in. And so with the team accepting, the team kind of just goes on to have like a week-long training period in which they're all focusing on their own selves, with everyone getting marginally stronger, until we eventually jump cut to the team actually walking into the Chunin exams tower. And the moment that they would enter this is when all three of them would look around, with Naruto staring at the genjutsu plain as sight, and him thinking to himself that it's stupid to have something like that. Suddenly, a bushy-browed boy would come in out of nowhere and begin to challenge Sasuke. And Naruto, seeing this, staring at him and seeing his build, would simply chuckle the moment that Sasuke would agree, with Naruto being the only one filled in on how strong this boy really could be. So following the two boys and watching the battle that would take place, Naruto would watch on as Sasuke would get absolutely slaughtered, with Naruto making a snide remark afterwards saying, "I can't believe the great Sasuke's totally clueless on analyzing an opponent." And Sasuke would kind of just stare back at Naruto with venom in his eyes, with Naruto knowing that the best thing to do before getting into a fight is to analyze his opponents. I mean, it's strategy 101. And with Shikamaru's dad having passed on a significant amount of tips onto him, this is definitely something Naruto has been practicing ever since he can remember. And so, with that, they would walk off, making their way towards the Chunin Tower with, I forgot to mention, Lee probably thanking them, be like, "Thank you for the battle, Sasuke!" With Naruto interjecting, being like, "No, thank you for whooping him." As they would all walk away, and Might Guy would say, "Lee, that was quite the performance. But do beware of his powers. That boy there, he's a strange one." As we then kind of just get a scene of Naruto kind of being hyped up a little bit with like Might Guy being like, "He's strong." You get what I'm saying? But anyways, after this would happen, the team goes in, they take the test, and Naruto obviously passes because the dude cheats with his bats. So we then get the Forest of Death section, in which once everybody would make it outside and would start to be explained the rules by Anko, Naruto would take note of specific opponents, placing shadow bits of himself inside of their own shadows. So in case Naruto ever comes across them, it'd be really easy to simply manipulate them or get the upper hand on them. And so, as the team would enter the forest with the Heaven Scroll, or the Earth Scroll I think it was, I don't know, who cares. As they enter the forest, this is when Sasuke would say, "Alright, we need somebody to lead us, and I think I should," with Naruto simply just laughing and saying that there's no way, that if anyone's going to be leading here, it's going to be him since there's real threats. As he would simply stare at Sasuke, who would tell him that he's an idiot, he's not gonna let him be the leader. He's literally just a lazy bum. But Naruto, turning back towards him, would say, "Do you want your shadow stolen?" To which Sasuke, knowing that there's nothing he could do against that attack of Naruto's, would simply just kind of agree, whatever. This is when he would ask what Naruto's strategy is, and as soon as Naruto would speak, he would say the dumbest thing, in Sasuke's opinion. Going on to explain that the first order of business will be to directly go straight towards the center of everything, make their way towards the tower, and pick off the very first team to arrive. Sasuke would say, "What? That's ludicrous. You mean to tell me you want to face off against the strongest people here?" And Naruto would simply smile, saying that that's the plan. Sasuke would tell him that that's insane. He's not even right in the head. That's such a dumb strategy. But Naruto smiles once more, with Sasuke continuing to be like, "Dude, that's not cool. We're gonna go with my lead." Until Naruto simply smiles with a smirk, saying it'll be a good chance for him to stretch his legs out a bit. As Naruto would start doing little calisthenics in front of him, and Sasuke staring at him is just like, "What?" All the while Naruto would finish his little warm-up, turning back to Sasuke and telling him, "What? You that scared of whoever gets there first?" As Sasuke, gritting his teeth, would say that he's not scared of anyone. And so they would make their way there, which by the way is 10 out of 10 rage bait. But anyways, once halfway there towards the center, Naruto would start to sense a powerful chakra heading their way, thanks to the fact that that shadow that he had placed inside of that person was letting him know. Also, the shadows in the area were tipping him off to life form approaching them extremely fast. So once Naruto would sense this presence, Sasuke, Sakura would finally become privy to it. And with the ninja, who appears to be a female, landing in front of them, the team would all watch on, wondering what exactly this person's here to do. But Naruto knows all too well what this person's intentions are. They're here to take their scroll, and Naruto's not about to let that happen. So Naruto, simply staring towards the direction of the woman, would tell him that if he came to fight them, he's a fool. As Orochimaru, still having his disguise on, would say, My, what a rambunctious young man you are. Able to resist my bloodlust, are you?" Before then blitzing towards Naruto, one step short of landing a fatal blow. However, thanks to Naruto's ability to pretty much control his shadow at a whim, he would stop him, with this taking everything Naruto has in him to keep Orochimaru immobile. This is when suddenly all the shadows that Naruto's ever used would shoot into Orochimaru's shadow, as all of them start to grip him down, not allowing Orochimaru to do a thing. Suddenly, Naruto would rip out Orochimaru's shadow, with him practically about to pass out from the exhaustion of that, as Orochimaru would feel a strange feeling of dizziness overwhelm him, before Naruto would smile, with Orochimaru's willpower practically having been cut in half. Naruto at this point would walk with Orochimaru towards the sunlight, much like how Shikamaru does when he's using shadow paralysis, as Orochimaru walking out into the sunlight would immediately light up a blaze, his body being charred instantly, with Sasuke and Sakura watching on stunned that Naruto was capable of planning that far ahead. After everything would be done and finished, a couple of sweat drops would come down from Naruto, who would allow them to fall before turning to the team, telling them that that was easy and they should continue forth, saying that this person had the same scroll as them, and they're not exactly going to be too useful. And as Naruto would turn towards them, the two would think that Naruto had just done nothing, like that was so easy for him. But the truth was, that was the hardest battle Naruto had ever had, since it took everything inside of Naruto to hold Orochimaru back. And the only reason that technique worked was because he had already planted a shadow with Orochimaru, something that if he had noticed would have ruined the entirety of the plan. So with Orochimaru finally having been defeated, Naruto would tell the team to come along, that they don't have time to waste, since the team could have potentially already cleared the Forest of Death section and they weren't even there to arrive. And how right Naruto was, because at about this time, a couple of minutes, or not minutes, literally like 30 seconds before, Gaara's team had already entered and successfully avoided Naruto, which could have turned out to be a really cool fight. But instead, a couple of hours would pass and finally, Team Neji would arrive. Lee, Tenten, and Neji would stand before them, as Naruto would simply extend his hand out saying, "Just give me the scroll and we can finally be on our own way," to which Neji would tell them that he's an idiot if he thinks he's simply going to be passing over the scroll to him. Naruto would sigh, telling him that it's not exactly something that he wishes to do, but he guesses he'll just have to take things the easy way. As suddenly, Neji and all three of them would find themselves restrained as they would unwillingly hand Naruto the scroll, with Naruto laughing, telling them that he'll see them in the finals, with exception to the weakling. As Tenten learning to Lee would say, "Lee, you gonna let him talk to you like that?" With Lee simply being serious and thinking to himself that ability is a strange one. There was light all over the place and he was still able to freeze us entirely. How is that even remotely possible? Neji would tell him not to worry about anything, saying that he actually used the shadows underground to paralyze them. Neji was just too slow to react. Lee, hearing that, would think to himself that that's incredibly impressive, and so would feel like hours would pass as everybody else would pass the Chunin exams. My bad, I'm moving a lot in my chair, but they would all pass forth. And this timeline, obviously Sasuke doesn't get the curse mark, meaning that after this would take place, the 1v1 preliminary battles take place, with Naruto actually matching up against Shikamaru, who would be his first opponent. Naruto stepping into the ring with Shikamaru, knowing what is like almost kind of slash like friend slash brother was about to do, Naruto would use his shadow paralysis to stop Shikamaru, saying, now, don't end the fun, brother." To which Shikamaru would say, "What's the point? You're just gonna beat me like you always have." Going on to try to speak, but Naruto would stop him, going, "Shh. I wanted to show you a cool new application of the shadows that I've ended up finding out." And Shikamaru, watching on, would simply stare as Naruto would grow in size, all of the shadows absorbing into his body, with Naruto saying, "Pretty cool, huh?" His voice deepening. Shikamaru, staring at this, would say, "It's cool. Now can I give up?" To which Naruto would look at him and say, "Yeah, you can give up." He would then pretty much say, "I quit," as Naruto would pass on to the next section, and then the rest of the battles would play out. And with Naruto having no connection to Hinata in this timeline, though he does think Neji's taking things a bit too far, who's he to judge? He literally ripped the man's shadow out and incinerated them in the sunlight, so not too big of a deal. And so, with that being the case, Naruto would spend the next month training on his own, with him never actually encountering Jiraiya sensei, considering that the circumstances for the two of them to meet would never perfectly align, meaning Jiraiya would go in and out of the Leaf Village, do his business, and leave, and Naruto would be none the wiser. So, by the time that the 1 month period would be over, and Naruto would now find himself facing off against Neji, Naruto would stand in the arena with a bit of a bored expression, knowing that this is not exactly going to be fun. Actually, let me do something else. I have never made it so that Naruto faces Gaara, and honestly, I feel like I could probably like narrate a really cool fight between Sasuke and Neji that would be way more interesting than any of the fights that we'd have thus far. And it's kind of crazy considering what Naruto's powers are, because some of you guys might be like, yo, this Naruto is straight aura farming this whole time. And there's other of you that might be like, yo, like, this is kind of boring. Don't you think you made him too strong? And to you people who are like, yo, he's too strong, I'd like to say this. The most overpowered abilities in any shonen or any like series often tend to be those that their opponents have no real like counter to. It's always the unexplainable abilities. That's the case for animes like Demon Slayer, where the demons have these intricate abilities that the demon slayers can't figure out, or like characters in Dragon Ball, like they have a strange new ability. Whoa, it's a cool new ability, I don't understand it. And it's always so difficult for characters to handle stuff that they're just not used to. So with Naruto being a literal anomaly, there's not really much that any of the characters paired up against him have been able to do to this point. Not even somebody like Orochimaru, who's capable of facing off toe-to-toe with Four Tails Naruto without his arms, mind you, which to this day is still one of the craziest things that I've ever seen Orochimaru pull off. But I'm literally getting way too sidetracked. Let's get back into the story. Naruto now would find himself off against Gaara, and with Gaara staring at Naruto with this look of just bloodlust and just wanting to kill him, Naruto would sit there with a bored expression, knowing that this battle is already over. Because the second everything would start, Gaara would find himself completely unable to manipulate sand on his own. So with Naruto seeing the helpless Gaara in front of him, practically begging to get his butt kicked, Naruto would stand there simply wondering what he's gonna do to him. Then, rushing to the direction of Gaara and reeling his fist back, he would say that he's been needing to get some punch work in, as he would try to use Gaara like a boxing bag. But the craziest thing ever would happen. Gaara's sand would instinctively protect him, with Naruto being stunned. What? He would think, as Naruto would try to throw one more attack, and the sand would form this strange barrier around him. Naruto, finding this extremely interesting, would ask Gaara how in the world that's possible, to which Gaara, staring at him, would tell him, "Mother protects me. Now let me go, and I'll kill you." But Naruto would simply stand there going, "Dude, you can't be serious. I'm not gonna just let you out so you can kill me." He'd start dying laughing, with Gaara staring at him in anger and rage. And Naruto would simply think to himself that this match is interesting, but it's taking too long. He feels like taking a nap. And so, this is when Naruto would start to raise his hand, forcing Gaara to quit, when suddenly Shukaku would start peeking his nose out. And Naruto, seeing this, would think there's no reason to allow that thing out of his body. And so, Naruto's shadow form would dig into Gaara's own, finding the other shadow that hides within Gaara's, which is how it works if you have a Jinchuriki. You are a Jinchuriki, so if you have a tailed beast within you. So Naruto, grabbing the shadow of Shukaku, would rip it out, then absorbing the entirety of the chakra that was within Shukaku. Naruto would smile as his power would grow immensely, and Naruto would find himself growing like 5 times his normal size. Naruto, feeling that this is a power he can't exactly control quite yet, would expel the gigantic kaiju-like shadow from his body, within thinking to himself that it would be kind of nice to have a massive bat that will not only serve for offense and defense, but also provide a cover for sunlight, making his own power even greater than before. So with that being the case, and Naruto walking closer and closer to Gaara with the sand preparing to stop him, Naruto would simply slap the sand away, before then forcing Gaara to lift his hand and quit, pissing Gaara off, but also making that voice in his head just completely disappear. Since Shukaku, having his shadow ripped out of him, more or less made the cat-like sand creature more docile. And so, Naruto would walk off with Gaara staring at Naruto's back, wondering what the hell he just did. It's at this point that he would try saying something, but Naruto simply gazing at him would almost give him a stare of "don't talk to me," with Gaara kind of remaining silent and walking off, thinking to himself that it doesn't matter. He's free, and now he can finally rest peacefully. Since Gaara had had insomnia his whole life, considering Shukaku never shut up and was constantly tormenting the kid for being his jailer, in Shukaku's eyes of course. That said, a couple of minutes would pass, and eventually Sasuke and Neji would both find themselves in the ring, with Neji staring at Sasuke, telling the Uchiha that today is the day that the Hyuga clan finally proves that the Uchiha truly are a thing of the past, literally and metaphorically. Sasuke, hearing this, would feel rage brewing up, as suddenly a calmness would overtake Sasuke, with a comeback brewing up in his mind. He would look to Neji before telling him that he's not worried about somebody that his own teammate no diffed. Neji then, remembering that time that Naruto completely dismantled him, would think to himself, whatever. He would then stare towards Neji as he would say, "You're not Naruto, are you?" As Sasuke, then staring towards Neji, would watch as Neji would begin rushing towards him, getting close distance before then saying 64 bomb, trigram, and then rushing towards Sasuke, trying to stab him with each one of those attacks. But none would be successful, as Sasuke, having witnessed Neji's fighting style last time that he went up against Hinata, had kind of read him like a book. His Sharingan active and staring deep into the soul of Neji, he would parry every single attack, with Neji being stunned, asking Sasuke when he plans to go on the offensive. Suddenly, Sasuke would do just that, and Neji, using his palm rotation technique, would block the entirety of the attack, telling Sasuke that this is a match that he simply can't win, because when it comes to the ultimate defense, the Hyugas are outrivaled. Suddenly, Sasuke, looking to Neji, would smile as he would throw a multitude of shuriken covered with wires, with Neji telling him that that strategy is foolish. Air palm! All of the cables would suddenly wrap together as they would go flying, and Sasuke would smirk, thinking to himself that he reacted just as expected before leaping into the air and fire style, fireball, only to be met with the rotation technique, with Neji finally stopping and telling Sasuke, or asking him what exactly he plans to do. Suddenly, we would see Sasuke on the top of the Chunin exams as he would yell out, "Chidori!" And a Chidori stream would begin to flash throughout Sasuke's arm as he would ask Neji how exactly that impenetrable defense will handle this. Then rushing towards the direction of him as fast as possible, speed causing his vision to start to kind of have a little bit of a tunnel vision effect, would lead him to then piercing straight into Neji's hand, which the ultimate palm rotation technique would actually find itself up against a pretty good match. Neji's hand that would have deflected the Chidori and tanked most of the blow would find itself completely unusable, with Neji stunned. How were you able to wield such a... Before Sasuke rushes in, knowing that created just the gap he needed, and not wanting to, lose this opportunity, would then go in before throwing a kick to Neji, which Neji would catch before then hitting three strikes on Sasuke's leg, forcing him to almost fall limp, then holding one hand out and telling Neji to get closer. Neji would smile, saying gladly, as he would rush in, one hand only, saying 32 palm. Since of course he couldn't perform the 64 palm, and attempting to land these strikes on Sasuke would be met with Sasuke's quick blocks before he would imitate Rock Lee's fighting style, going on to clobber Lee, who would be stunned, going, "Those are Lee! How did he?" But he'd be moving at such a speed that would shock Neji, even faster than Lee, he would think. As suddenly his defense is starting to melt, he would realize that the end of this battle is getting closer and closer, and with that, Sasuke's blows would start to land one after the other, with Neji being completely dismantled by Sasuke, who would simply stare at Neji on the ground saying, "What was that about the Hyuga being better than the Uchiha?" To which Neji would retort back, "You scum, this is why your clan was wiped out. You're all garbage." But as he was uttering that, Sasuke would kick him in the jaw, knocking Neji completely unconscious, telling him to shut his damn mouth. As we would then see the final matchup be between Sasuke and Naruto. And with this finally coming to fruition, Naruto, stepping inside of the ring, would stare at Sasuke, asking him how exactly he feels like losing, before snickering and telling Sasuke that he's joking, that at this point it's not even worth fighting Sasuke. So at the moment that the proctor would say begin, instead of Sasuke tensing up and having even the chance to think, alright, this is the strategy I'll use, Naruto just raises his own hand and says, "I quit." Which would shock everybody, but most of all, Hiruzen, who kind of just falls off his chair in anime-like fashion, being like, "Well, it appears Naruto quit, meaning Sasuke Uchiha is the winner." And after that would be over, the proctors would all go on to decide who's going to become a Chunin and who's not. And the two finalists who would go on to make that advancement would be both Sasuke Uchiha for having completed everything, and Naruto for clearly possessing the strength to become a Chunin, if not a Jonin. With Naruto eventually, after that would be said and done, and he would be handed his vest, going to Hiruzen's office to collect it, He would go on to inform Hiruzen that he actually collected the shadow of an individual that he's pretty sure he's acquainted with. He would go on to say the name Orochimaru, and this would stun Hiruzen, who's like, "You've defeated Orochimaru?" With Naruto saying, "Don't look so shocked now, Kage," as he would then walk out of the office telling him that if he needs another high-scale mission, to call him. Otherwise, just let him laze around. And so, leaving the area, Naruto would start just pretty much doing nothing, as eventually the time period would come where the Akatsuki members would go after him, and seeing as there was no, Hiruzen death in this timeline, that means that because of that, there's no Tsunade retrieval mission, so Jiraiya kind of just stays out of the village, meaning that when Itachi and Kisame go into the village in search of Naruto, they actually find him there. And here's where we can have two paths. One deviates to the more normal timeline where we kind of have the time skip and we have all the usual continuing arcs, or we have the other timeline where they actually make it to Naruto and he's given the opportunity to not only face off against Itachi, but Kisame. With that said, I'm sure a lot of you guys are probably now thinking to yourselves that this is a battle Naruto can't win, but shockingly enough, I actually think that it could go either way. So with Naruto lazing around and kind of just going out for a walk after tiring himself of being in the house all day, Naruto would spot two figures approaching him, with Naruto thinking nothing of it. But upon getting closer and closer, Naruto could tell these two were clearly not there as friends. So Naruto would stop and ask what exactly they want with him. The two would speak up, with Kisame being the louder of the two and saying that he is coming with them. They're in need of the Nine Tails Jinchuriki. Naruto, however, would tell them that that's not gonna happen, as a massive bat would envelop the entire area, with Itachi looking up, then staring directly into the eyes of Naruto, him not caring about Itachi doing that in this moment, with him thinking that the battle was over. However, before he could even use his ability to destroy them, Itachi placing him under the Tsukiyomi, or not Tsukiyomi, but a Genjutsu world, Naruto would find himself seeing these strange events, a battle against a man who was capable of stretching his limbs and ultimately failing to control his strange abilities in that world. Naruto seeing this stuff would be completely caught off guard, all the while in the real world, slice, Naruto would be cut on his arm, with it nearly flying off of his body if not for the shadows reconnecting it and starting to slowly apply these shadow stitches and use his own shadow to kind of cause the blood to reconnect in the little blood vessels to do so as well, as Naruto standing there now with one arm completely out of the equation would go on to say that he's an idiot and he'll be dying first. All too suddenly, Kisame's shadow would be extracted from his body, as that little section would completely have a ray of sunlight shoot towards it, with Kisame being pulverized. Naruto in this moment would then go on to say that it's going to be fun destroying Itachi, turning into this gigantic kaiju-like form that would be massive in scale, about the same size as Itachi Susanoo, which would lead Itachi seeing this to go into his own Susanoo form and tell Naruto that this is where things end. As he would then go on to wield his shield and Totsuki blade and then aim it down towards Naruto, telling him to just give up, that there's no reason to do this. But Naruto's not exactly going to be relenting, and this is when suddenly the massive bat in the air would fly, flocking down to Naruto's shadow, with Naruto now gaining the biggest strength boost of all, and him telling Itachi that this is where this little battle of theirs is gonna be ending. Suddenly, a shadow sword would activate and he would clash with Itachi. This sword was comprised of the chakra of Zabuza, or the shadow of Zabuza, and the moment that it made contact with Itachi's Tsukiyomi blade, he sucked it into it like a random different dimension, I believe is what happens. As Naruto seeing this would be shocked, confused as to how this is happening. Naruto would simply tell Itachi that that Amaterasu thing of his, that gigantic kaiju form of his does create a rather large shadow. A bat delving deep into it, with Itachi completely unable to land any attacks, seeing a sunlight and anything doesn't really have an effect on it, would simply watch on as this bat would infiltrate his shadow and proceed to rip it out of him. As the seconds would pass and Naruto would keep Itachi distracted, he could feel that the shadow of the Susanoo was forcibly getting ripped out, causing the Susanoo to be deactivated, with Itachi stunned at the capabilities of Naruto, now understanding that it's probably for the best to use Tsukiyomi. However, with Naruto having been caught with Genjutsu prior to this, Naruto would not be staring at Itachi. I think, I'm not entirely too sure if like Naruto would be able to like not get Tsukiyomi just by not looking at his eyes, but if that's not the case, please bear with me, I'm not really too sure at this point. So Naruto in this moment proceeds to rip the shadow out, deactivating the Susanoo, with Itachi speculating on what Naruto's weakness could be. But as Naruto would throw his attack to try to end things off, Itachi would have it click. His speed. He's become slow. Naruto recognizing that Itachi is definitely not any fool, Naruto would then go on to say, "Damn fox, are you listening?" As Naruto out of nowhere would find himself inside of his own mindscape, with him staring at Kurama and telling him that this is no time for games, he needs his power. Kurama would laugh, telling him that all this time he's been negligent with him, not able to accept any of the deals that he's left on the table. Well, now there's no dice. But Naruto would simply smile, saying that he wasn't exactly asking. A shadow would then envelop itself with Kurama, as Naruto would turn Kurama into like this strange shadow, like tailed beast type thing that Naruto now was capable of drawing chakra from, leading Naruto to close and open his eyes. He would shrink down to size, as the form that Naruto would now be in like a strange sort of KCM shadow mode, with Naruto going into the ground itself and kind of just flashing, appearing out of nowhere, with Itachi stunned. This speed, he would think. He would think to himself that this is bad, when suddenly Itachi could feel himself being dragged into what appears to be a shadow realm. Nothing but darkness would be there, and as Itachi would try to look around with the Sharingan, he'd see nothing, until eventually he could feel that his essence, his being, was being drained. His shadow had been ripped out of him, and Itachi's remains were being turned into a puppet. Naruto, standing there, simply watching this transformation take place, would say one last thing to Itachi, telling him that he'll be sure to use this body to good use, and to tell Sasuke that his lifelong goal has been completed in 30 minutes. And so, after the defeat of Itachi, Naruto would simply sit back down, with him thinking to himself that he hates having to put that much effort into fights. But this is when all too suddenly, Naruto would proceed to wake up, and he was inside of a genjutsu that entire time, and he feels a blade piercing through his stomach, which would be Kisame. Naruto would be dead. I'm totally kidding. No, yeah, Naruto definitely won that fight. Anyways, though, point being, I just wanted to do that just to be annoying, but anyways, Naruto, after doing so, would probably then end up gloating to Sasuke about how he had defeated Itachi, and with Sasuke hearing this, there's just no way in my book that I believe that Sasuke's just gonna take that and be like, oh, he defeated Itachi, thanks Naruto, like I appreciate. No, he's like, that was my target. Like he gets all angry about it. He's like, how could you, yada yada yada. He's like, what am I left with now? What's an Avenger supposed to do with nothing to avenge? As Naruto would tell him that his brother is still around, and he could still technically kill him, as out of nowhere, an Itachi shadow corpse would appear, kind of similar to what Sun Jin Woo does, as out of nowhere, Sasuke seeing this would be like, Itachi? This shadow would have no semblance of his brother, doesn't even possess the ability. No, actually, yeah, it possesses the ability to Sharingan. We gotta have that happen. And it's just like staring into Sasuke's eyes like blankly. Sasuke, seeing this, would stare at Naruto, telling him that he hates him. To which Naruto would tell him that he couldn't care less what Sasuke thinks of him. After this, Naruto would think that whatever that organization was is clearly after him, and he doesn't exactly feel like being troubled with random appearances by these members, because if any of them are even half as strong as Itachi, he might have to deal with these now. And so, with that being the case, Naruto would report the incident to Hiruzen, telling him that with these people on the loose and trying to clearly come after him, he needs information on them. So, he would then be introduced to Jiraiya a few weeks after this, with him being summoned to the village by Hiruzen as a favor, trying to get him to pass on the intel he has on the Akatsuki. And it's at this point that Naruto and Jiraiya would both find themselves in a situation where Jiraiya is trying to find information and Naruto is trying to kill the Akatsuki. So Naruto would simply ask Jiraiya if he's willing to take on a little bit of extra muscle. Jiraiya would say that he is, but not from a kid. To which Naruto would go on to tell him that he has already defeated 2 members on his own, Itachi and Kisame. And Jiraiya, hearing of this, would turn to Hiruzen going, "Is that true?" As Itachi's shadow would appear and Naruto would say, "You tell me." All too suddenly, Jiraiya would eagerly accept this. He would think to himself that if a kid's this strong and it's the son of Minato, he is going to be having a blast trying to train this kid and make him even more powerful. So, over the course of the 3-year time skip, Naruto and Jiraiya would spend their time going from town to town, doing little missions, finding out information about the Akatsuki, and every now and then encountering those members. They would probably, over the course of this little time skip, have encountered characters like Deidara, Sasori, Hidan, Kakazu, probably even Pain too, because there's no way that after that much time, they wouldn't eventually go to the Rain Village, with Jiraiya confident of the fact that Naruto should be able to do something to these. But interestingly enough, their battle against Pain would be their toughest one, considering the fact that Naruto's shadow capability was only helpful when it directly came to the physical combat side. Because to Naruto's shock, these things don't have shadows. They have no freaking soul to extract. So with that being the case, the battle would be a hard-fought, difficult one if Naruto didn't have Shadow Sage mode. Sorry, not Shadow Sage mode, but Shadow KCM1, which he would use to speed blitz around the battlefield with his own shadow form and his other shadow form, just blitzing around the battlefield, discombobulating the Rinnegan users, leading Jiraiya just enough time to smash the Diva Path in with the Big Bar Rasengan, destroying it, as this little chameleon would then wrap its tongue around Jiraiya, trying to kill the dude by tossing him into a mountain, but Naruto out of nowhere would catch the dude with one of his bats, sending Jiraiya leaping right back towards him, his hair extending and latching on to that path's body, as Naruto, wrapping it out of nowhere, would then proceed to drag it into that shadowy dimension, destroying any essence of that thing left. As we would then see the two of them sitting down after having defeated everybody, with Conan being the only one left. This would probably then lead to an emotional scene with Jiraiya and Conan, with him asking why things came to this. Why join an organization like the Akatsuki? Why use Yahiko's body like that? And Conan would start crying, saying that he doesn't understand, with Jiraiya saying he doesn't, to help him. And so he would then end up converging with Nagato, with Jiraiya this time around, seeing as Naruto definitely doesn't possess the Talk no Jutsu capability, using that on Nagato, switching him to their side, where we now pretty much get Naruto discovering the whereabouts of the true leader of the Akatsuki, Obito. And this would lead to one final grand battle where everybody is now left to not everybody, but these 4, well actually 5, considering we now have Itachi, all left to try to defeat Obito, which would happen eventually, what with them arriving to the base and Obito clapping, telling them that they are all fools for attempting to fight him. As Obito would start to phase straight towards the weakest link, Conan killing her by piercing her heart straight through with a chakra rod. This would proceed to drop Conan to the ground, who, now finding herself right at death's door, would stare at Jiraiya, thanking him for helping her to turn a new leaf, even if it was only for a few days. Jiraiya, looking towards the direction of Obito, would lose his cool alongside Nagato, who, attempting to use that meteor jutsu to catch him off guard, would proceed to actually devastate the battlefield. These new paths of pain that he had created with the help of Jiraiya and Naruto would then attempt to aid in the battle, as suddenly an Amaterasu blast would be sent towards Obito, which wouldn't hit. Obito simply laughing and telling the group that unless they can hit him, they're all useless. As suddenly, from the shadow of Obito himself, Naruto would appear, holding Obito's shadow in place, telling him that unfortunately for him, that intangibility of his doesn't apply to his shadow, seeing as the moment that he makes himself tangible, he leaves behind a little something, evidence of his existence. So, taking on the shadow and ripping it out of Obito's body would leave him in a fuzzy, confused state, with Jiraiya rushing in and landing the biggest Rasengan that we've seen in the series, which would destroy Obito's health bar to 50%, with Obito standing there saying that they're fools if they think he's just gonna, but boom. Tsukiyomi would hit this man instantly, with Obito like being caught off guard in this world. Not that he can't break out, because obviously we know he probably could, which would then give the team a solid like 3 seconds to try to like kill Obito, which would be more than enough. What with Naruto using his special ability to draw out the sunlight's rays, would proceed to beam down like he would make the clouds move so that the sun could perfectly like hit Obito, which would cause Obito's entire body to just dissipate, with Naruto standing there saying that that's better. Now he can return to the village free of this little annoyance. As we would see Naruto laugh, saying, "I can't believe I used to act like that." With this version of Naruto having hung around Jiraiya so long, his kind of like personality sort of rubbed off on Naruto, with Naruto also getting to the root of how weird he used to feel and how cold and dry he used to act. Naruto kind of worked through things almost as though this was like literal therapy with Jiraiya, and had literally gone on to get past that whole laziness aspect of himself. Naruto knew that if he continued to apply himself, he could someday forge in the footsteps of Minato Namikaze, his father. And so, with that being said, what if Naruto with a Shadow Kekkei Genkai comes to a close? Let me know what you guys thought about this one down below in the comments. Did you guys think that this version of Naruto was way too busted? And if so, let me know more busted characters to cover a story on next time. But with that being said, I love each and every single one of you guys. It has been your boy Heather, and I am out. Peace.